Minecraft 1.20 broke me. I mean, it actually broke my mob farm of all things, and has made this collection area right here in the Nether entirely useless. Because it's no longer going to be filling up with items, although there's some redstone left over here, I'm going to snag that. And there's still plenty of gunpowder. But of course, it's all going to run out if this thing is no longer working. And technically speaking, our storage area is actually working. The thing that's not is the mob farm in the overworld that it's hooked up to. Yes, in Minecraft 1.20, a fundamental change has been made, and no mobs will spawn in this mob farm. But no, it's not because of the water that's on top of the platforms. Let's go ahead and turn the farm on. It is because mobs no longer spawn on scaffolding. We're in a perfect perimeter right now, so if they could spawn, trust me, they would. And because of that, it means I can safely land on top of our collection area without any mobs landing on top of my head, which would not be good for my health. But yeah, it's a real shame this thing no longer works in 1.20, and as I said, eventually we're going to run out of all these drops as lots of the hermits come over here and snag the gunpowder and other stuff, which I'm really happy that they're making use of it, but that usefulness is going to come to an end because it doesn't work anymore. Now, I have a mischievous plan for something special we could do when building a new mob farm, but of course, first of all, we actually need to get one built. So I've gathered my materials, I picked a spot on the server, we're going to build a brand new mob farm that's even bigger than this one here. So there it is, the building process is complete, and once again we have our very own working mob farm. Although currently it's not active, the roof up here which blocks the light going into the farm has some holes in it, and that is so that mobs are not currently spawning on these platforms. We are going to activate this monstrosity of a farm real soon, but first of all I have a question. Did you enjoy the music in the time lapse? That was actually one of my own songs, so if you'd like to hear some more you can go to linktree.xisuma.co, and in the music section you can find my music on Bandcamp, YouTube, Spotify and other streaming platforms too. Now, by the title and the thumbnail of this video, you probably know what shenanigans I'm going to be getting up to, as at some point, we're going to put a Sculk catalyst down the bottom here, and we're going to use the death of the mobs from our mob farm to spread Sculk all over the Hermitcraft server. I have things to explain and things to do before we are ready to lay down a catalyst, but first of all, a word from the sponsor of this video. Have you ever had a slow internet connection? Maybe a website is unreachable or a file won't download. Sometimes I even have trouble connecting to Hermitcraft. The internet is a big web of connections, and sometimes issues arise that make for a bad experience. Some services and even your ISP can throttle your bandwidth at their own discretion. While ExpressVPN won't always fix these issues, but it can potentially be a solution, allowing you to force a different route to a website or game server by running your connection through a different location and masking your activity from your ISP. And the best part is, when you turn on ExpressVPN, you can choose which country's server you'd like to reroute your connection through. If you pick Canada, you can watch classic 90s cinema like Schindler's List, The Green Mile, or The Shawshank Redemption. So if you're interested, head over to expressvpn.com/Xisuma, use this link and you will get your first 3 months for free with a yearly subscription. ExpressVPN is easy to use and has a no logs policy. Their privacy policy has even been audited by PwC. Use the link in the description box down below to sign up today. So welcome back to the episode, and first things first, let's talk about the farm design, because credit where credit is due. This one was put together by Frunocraft. So I've been following Fruno for some time, and this video of theirs really caught my attention. You can boost your mob farm rates by up to 50%. And this is done by simply changing the configuration of the redstone clock that controls it. I originally intended to apply this to the scaffolding mob farm that we saw earlier in the episode, but of course that doesn't work in Minecraft 1.20. And so I was checking out these changes in the world download, and I figured, why don't I just build this design? It's the same sort of concept. The only thing I've done is added this glass around the outside, and that was to stop those pesky spiders, which could actually fall into the water and then climb out onto the blocks on the side. So with the glass, they are not able to do that. And this farm comes with a bunch of other changes that I really like as well. You might remember that some mobs survived the previous mob farms platform. They won't be able to do that because they land on these campfires which damage them. All of the items then get picked up by these hoppers, dispensed into water streams, all stuff we've seen before, but then they hit this cobweb. I think items take about 30 to 60 seconds or something to go through a cobweb, so that gives them plenty of time to group up into a stack, which I think is just more efficient than having lots of items run through the water streams on their own. And then we've got a classic filtering system, the very first filter of which actually destroys the items into these soul flames right here. I think this is the one where the rotted flesh goes. And the rest of the storage starts with 2 hoppers pulling out here and pushing into the first chest, so I think it can take items out a little quicker than usual. And then any items that don't get filtered, like pieces of armor that come through, just get destroyed here. I really liked these additions, and the thing that I've sort of glossed over is how the redstone clock manipulates these spawning platforms. So in Fruno's video, they explained it much better than I could. In a nutshell, the timing of this redstone clock is just more efficient with pushing the mobs off of the platform and then giving them time to spawn again, and that is what gives you those increased rates. So I'm going to fill in these blocks and run a little bit of a test now, but before we get going with this project and laying down our catalyst, I want to show you what I've been up to on the Hermitcraft server, because it's been a while since I last made an episode. And where do we even start? There's been so much going on. I think we should start with 1.20 and the sniffer. Of course, the server is now on the 1.20 update, and this whole build has been renovated. Yes, I was all on Team Sniff for this update, and this place, as you can see, now has an entrance. We built this a while ago for the mob vote, and in here, yes, there is indeed a sniffer farm, but it's got some allays inside of it. So sniffers do what sniffers do. They make a lot of noise. No, they be sniffing. When they sniff up some seeds, the allays come along and collect them and then drop them into the back here where the note blocks are. As you saw just there, it got activated, so then those items get picked up and dropped into these barrels. Now, there was something that I overlooked at the time, but if we show the hitboxes of the sniffer, I think I've got a solution. There isn't actually a way to get in here, so if we break these corner bits, I don't think the sniffer can escape. And the reason we want to get in is to get ourselves some sniffer eggs. Look, I'm luring them over to the corner. Ah, the allay can escape. Well, anyway, now we can do a little bit of breeding and get our hands on some sniffer eggs. So I got myself a couple, but it was a bit of a pain to get the allays back in there, so not quite sure what the solution there is going to be. We also don't have an allay that picks up those eggs either, but I'm going to leave it as is for now. So that's not the only 1.20 shenanigans I've been up to. I have actually been playing on the server. But of course, I have also taken a break from uploading episodes, and if you want to know the rhyme and the reason of why and where my headspace is at when it comes to taking a break from YouTube, I've actually uploaded a video to the Xisuma Says channel, so if you want to know my thoughts and what I'm thinking and feeling at the moment about making content on YouTube, you can find a link to it in the description box down below. So we built a little something for the sniffer, and I've also built a little something for the camel. And apparently we got the world's tallest llama over here. So recently I'd done some investigation. I had a lot of fun making another episode of myth busting about how to maximize your camel dash. I was essentially trying to figure out the biggest distance you could jump with the dash, and actually there's a bigger one than the one that I'm going to show you. We'll do that later on in this episode. First of all, let's hop into this area and grab ourselves a camel and talk about what on earth this thing is. It's a challenge to the other hermits, an opportunity for them to get their hands on a camel, but to do that, they have to do the biggest dash by crossing this jump over here. Now, there's no way I'm going to get this first time on camera, right? That felt pretty close, but it's really tough. You have to get yourself lined up, you've got to sprint, and then time your jump perfectly. Oh, it looks so good, didn't it? And yes, this is actually possible. I think that False, Cubfan, and Jevin have successfully made the camel dash and bred themselves some camels. Because, as I said, that is the prize for completing the dash. It's free to play, and then you just get to breed a camel if you win. So for this build, I wanted to take inspiration from the Minecraft village, the desert one obviously, the home of the camel. And with that I would create this small, humble, castle-y build full of little details. But most importantly, I wanted to put it in a place where there would be traffic, where people would be passing through on the way to the Hermitcraft TCG arena. That's a great way to advertise that it's here, and of course then you have to dash across the very path that you walked across. As I said, it's free to play. You can get yourself a camel. I had a lot of fun making this, and I hope the other hermits enjoy it too. So those were my 1.20 projects. I also did a lot of exploring the world, getting my hands on smithing templates and other trinkets. But yes, there's something else that I've been working on. You may remember that the cleaning lady hired us to do a job and to build a sorting system down below. That system is now finished, but so is the swirling vortex of water up top that'll sort items into that system. So over here, I built this little pop-up stand. There are some instructions in the book. You drop off your items over here, and then they'll get dispensed into the water. I found the best way to see this is actually with the hitboxes turned on, because then you can see all the items being dispensed, swirling around in the water, making their way down below. This is where they'll get picked up and sent into our communal storage system, which Pearl has decorated and done a mighty fine job with. This place just looking amazing right now. I have been working around the back here to add some important and necessary features to prevent this thing from breaking. Because it is a public system, it means that players might drop off some items and then leave the area, which could cause us some problems. As you can see, the system spans over multiple chunks, so as players come and go from the area, it is possible for this thing to break due to the sensibility of the hopper minecarts and the timing of the redstone. So because of this, we need to keep the chunks loaded, and over here we have a chunk loader for when the sorting system is active. Yes, let's drop down below, because all of these slime blocks, all they do is send a signal downwards to our chunk loader, which is built down here at the deep slate level. And if you watch Season 8 of Hermitcraft, this design over here might look rather similar. It is the same design from that season. We have a clock here. There is a contraption that is identical in the nether. And what happens is these items get spit through to the other side and then get spat back again and picked up by the hopper here. So when items go through a nether portal, they load some of the chunks nearby for I think 30 seconds at a time. So currently this thing is keeping the whole area loaded. Then when the system isn't running, this redstone here turns off and it correctly overrides this nether portal chunk loading system, so it's no longer active. So that's one way that this protects the system from breaking, and there's another one too that involves a magical little block over here. Look at that, an unpowered redstone block. This is actually just the block model technology that you've seen used, for example, the Mumbo Crown or my own Bone Mage Skull. But with the aid of a nifty data pack, this thing actually turns into a powered redstone block briefly a minute before the server restarts. So like with the chunks, some sensitive timing on your redstone or entities moving through your contraption could potentially break with a server restart as all the chunks get unloaded. So when this thing gets powered, it activates this EFO hopper clock, creating a signal to temporarily turn this system off safely. And with that, this thing should be break-proof, which is important because, again, it's a public sorting system. So if I were to use my own, I would obviously be managing it and staying nearby it when it was on. But because people might drop off items and then leave, we put in those safety measures. So I very much hope I have fulfilled my redstone duties and the cleaning lady is happy with this amazing system. Big shout out to Xisuma Games, who's been an immense help getting this thing up and running, and also Plagiatus for creating that server restart data pack. Oh, and this is what I love about Hermitcraft. You're just hanging out in the area, and then all of a sudden you notice a new build has popped up. This very much looks like a work in progress, but boy, I gotta say, I'm inspired. I love the layout here. Right now, though, building is not what I'm inspired to do. I want to get on with our plans for some naughty infestation and see how far we can spread some Sculk. Yes, I just flew into a tree. And while I'm back here at the base, picking up some Sculk Catalyst, I know I have some somewhere. Oh yeah, it's in my ender chest. I didn't even need to come here. Remember the TCG Evil X boss fight? Of course you do. This thing is absolutely amazing. After I built this, I added a little score counter. So there are some droppers to push items into these barrels. So Evil X has won 4 times and the players have won only once. That is a good win ratio, but there's one thing for sure. We need to get more hermits playing this game. How do I get them over here? Leave me some ideas in the comments below. This thing looks so cool as you approach it from a distance. And my whole thinking here was I just wanted to experiment with seeing how far the Sculk catalyst could actually spread around here, because we could just stand AFK up top and keep this thing running. But first we got to set up the Sculk catalysts down below, and these things can be a little tricky to get running. You see, we got blocks here that are kind of in the way, but I've got some ideas on how we can get this stuff to spread. I placed them like this and then filled in some of the surrounding land, so it should have no trouble spreading out from there. So we've got an AFK platform up the top here. This creates a perfect perimeter. And there it is. We've got our mobs. I just forgot to turn the farm on. Alright, so now we've got some absolute action. There is a ton of death taking place right here, but as you can see, the catalysts just, they don't want to get going. This is what I've seen in some of my experiments. So I've opened up the platform here, put the catalysts in the corners, put in some dirt blocks for them to spread on. I think it's just a matter of time before this thing picks up and gets going. So check this out, we had a witch in the farm, and I don't know if it's coincidental, but that's when the spreading got started. I also decided to add a couple of extra catalysts to give it more of a chance too. I then realized that all of the Sculk was simply spreading upwards through the glass, and we wanted to spread it down and out below. So I attached some signs around the outside here. And originally we had some signs on the inside at this level. But then I learned this was going to work much better if I put them one level up, so the Sculk could start spreading down here and then spread to the outside. And with that adjustment, this thing could really get going. As you can see, some of those Sculk charges start to spread out and distribute themselves across the surrounding terrain. So as we look at this sped up footage, you might start to notice an issue. The Sculk charge doesn't really spread out that fast. It takes it a fair bit of time to look around for new terrain to spread to, and if it can't, it tends to turn into Sculk sensors or Sculk shriekers. So to get my head around how far this stuff would spread, I went AFK for 90 minutes, and the footage you're looking at right now is those 90 minutes sped up. You can see it's really going to take a long time to get this stuff to spread outwards. So for the foreseeable future, this is going to be my home, the AFK platform up top. This is perfectly positioned, so when I'm up here, we're not loading any of the terrain down below, which allows the farm to run at maximum efficiency. And the reason that I'm going to be staying here is because after several more hours of AFKing, the Sculk hasn't spread as far as I would have liked. I wanted to have much more fun with this, but that, I gotta say, is actually pretty impressive. Wow! It spread further, but once again, not by much. And in another 24 hours, it's probably going to spread just a little further out from these edges. As you can imagine, the further the Sculk charge has to go, the less likelihood of it coming all the way out here. So I think it's time to get a little hands-on, see if we can redirect the Sculk charge with a little engineering. So it was around a year ago that I was messing with the idea of creating a Guardian farm that also generates Sculk, and at that time I was looking at moving the Sculk charge around and up to the player that would be located above the farm. And I'm fairly confident it was this video right here, the bidirectional Sculk charge lines by Ilmango, that introduced this concept of being able to move Sculk charges. So when I popped back into my redstone test world, it didn't take me too long. There's a lot of stuff here, but I did find this system and I was able to adapt it for our one that we've got on the Hermitcraft server. But one of the things that we're going to do is modify the base of it and block out all the blocks down below. So we're actually no longer going to collect any items, which is fine by me because this next bit is going to be a whole lot of fun. I am actually really excited for this one. Look at what we got set up here. A ways to spread these out to new areas in 4 different directions. And it looks really cool. Yeah, I picked some blocks to match the build palette. And while I was moving around here, a lot of noise gets made. There's Sculk shriekers everywhere and sensors, and it's a little bit crazy to hang out in this spot. Anyways, what we do next is we turn the farm back on. And this is going to be a really exciting moment. Let's have a look then. There come the mobs. And then we're looking for a Sculk charge. Yes, we've got one on this side. Off it goes. And look at that. It's being distributed all the way across. Then oh, it ran out. Oh, that's interesting. There seems to be a distance that it can go. And that's probably based on how much charge has actually accumulated. Some has made it over here to the bottom though. Okay, what about on this side? It's going all the way across and it makes it over there and it spreads. Wonderful. So here they are, each of the charges arriving at their 4 destinations. And now it's about 10 minutes later and you can really see it is starting to spread. Although the ones that are further away are having a little harder time getting going. This is fantastic though. It's time for me to do some more AFKing. Now that's what I like to see. Oh yes, this is definitely working. But you can probably tell these are not quite as big as the patch in the middle. And that's because our Sculk charges certainly lose their ability to spread once they've travelled across this thing. But I've also noticed that the charge is still able to make its way down here, which is not a good thing. So we need to change something here, see if we can make this system more efficient. My idea was to block the Sculk charges with trapdoors, but it didn't work. In fact, it created sensors that then flicked the trapdoors open and close. So I think we've reached our limit with this method here. But let's not forget that there is always portable death. Do you recognize this place here? Do you recognize it now? Well, that, my friends, is the crazy chicken farm that we built earlier in the season, and it has provided us with a stupid amount of eggs. I had a bunch of them stashed in this chest over here, but I've raided them, and I've got a few more around the corner. We're going to raid all of these too. You can see where this is going, right? You know, automated chicken farm plus Sculk catalyst. We can start spreading this stuff wherever we want. You know, I might be getting a little bit carried away here. The original idea was just to have a single source and to see how far it could spread, and it felt a little bit disappointing, so we tried to expand it further. And now we're just kind of going, you know, anywhere if we're going to make these things portable, but I would like to make our infestation area bigger, so I built 8 of these. If we use our eye in the sky, you can see I positioned them between these 2 sections that extended the Sculk spread, and then I've kind of repeated that pattern around each corner. It's not perfect though, I've just sort of put it where it feels like it needs to go to spread out. And I actually have no idea how far each of these little patches can go. Probably it's not as much as in the middle, but these things can run indefinitely, and that's because it's a chicken farm. So up the top here, we're going to load it with eggs, we're going to fill that up, and they're going to get dispensed into the ladder, which prevents entity cramming. And yes, I've done some lazy clocks for the redstone here. The top one I can rip out when I'm done with it, but all of the eggs that the ones up there hatch get picked up by the hopper minecart, sent down into this dispenser. So the one at the bottom is going to be permanently dispensing those eggs. And so the baby chickens will grow on top of this wall, which actually places them half a block higher. And then again, the ladder to stop entity cramming. And when they grow into adults, they get cooked. Now, there is 2 missing components. I don't actually have any more Sculk catalysts. I mean, I could rip the ones from over there back out again, but I'm going to speak to Cubfan and other hermits on the server, see if anyone's got some spare. The other thing that's really, really important is that we put a Sculk block nearby. I spent ages in my test world earlier because I couldn't actually get this to work with a Sculk catalyst nearby. It turns out though that once you have a single Sculk block nearby, the whole farm gets going. So I also need to throw that on top. Let's actually see this problem that I've discovered in action. It's never a problem if the player itself kills the mob in question, but you'll see that it just can't get going when these baby chickens grow into adults. This egg creates a baby chicken that lasts for like a second, and it grows into an adult. Oh, and there's a reason the bit at the bottom is waterlogged. It's to stop those baby chickens from getting caught down below. So let's use the item swapper mod, switch it over to a Sculk vein, place it up the top, and then put in another chicken egg. What's going to happen is the Sculk starts spreading, right? That could be considered a bug. Either way, we now know how to get these farms going. I just need more Sculk catalysts. So I spoke to Cubfan and I was told to come to this place and it says, do not enter. And honestly, I'm a little horrified as to what to do here. I'm supposed to stand on the Sculk Shrieker, place an observer here, and then not move. What has Cubfan created? I feel like I'm going to see something right above me. Oh my god, look, it's the face of the warden? Oh, I love how that looks when it goes dark. So cool. Oh, we got one. Oh, and now it's gone. Where are these wardens going? They're going up there. And here in the dark, they're taking some form of damage. So, it works until it doesn't, right? I mean, we've got plenty of wardens spawning, but when it came to disengaging this contraption, I didn't know quite what to do. And so I had to run out of this portal and I popped a totem in the process. So I've grabbed myself some golden apples and we're going to go back in and play it on the safe side here. So just going to have that straight away. We need to go back in and get the catalysts and I believe I'm just going to be attacked immediately. So it's still up there. Oh, this is terrifying. This is where... 48! Wow! That's a lot. Can I get out of here alive? Yeah, I probably can. Well, there it is. A sound that might just drive you clucking mad. We have set up these... Hello, we've got a visitor. Oh, I guess that's going to help it spread. Yes, our chicken cookers have been set up. And now I've probably got to AFK for about 20 minutes before anything actually starts to happen. Oh, wait, it's probably more like 40 minutes because they've got to grow up once, the cedars just above my head. And then they're going to hatch new ones that need to grow up too. Except they don't. I came down here after 40 minutes and the behavior is different. The baby chickens just die. So we have no chickens growing. And in the testing world you saw earlier, my redstone server, they survive on top of the wall blocks and, well, they don't here. I have absolutely no idea what it is on Hermitcraft that creates that difference, but unfortunately, I guess this is where our experiment ends. But it has been really fantastic just to see how far you can spread this stuff out from a single source. It's pretty impressive, but I would have loved to make it go further around this island. Maybe I'll figure something out and we can come back to this project at another point in time, which reminds me, if you want to do your own experimentation or you've got some ideas, of course, leave a comment, let me know what you get up to with this idea, and yeah, maybe together we'll find a way forward for spreading the Sculk even further. Anyhoozle, I have one more thing to show you regarding the camel dash over here. So this is the biggest camel dash possible, right? Unless you use splash potions, I've got jump boost, speed, and slow falling. And we have to be quick about this because they only last for 1 minute 30. Let's see how far we can go with this attached. I'm not even going to try and time the jump. Just give us a good old whack. And we've gone over the entire building. You can go around 22 blocks with this combination of effects. Look at that. Okay. Bam! Epic jump. Also, epic shop entrance. I love this. Ooh, this is Rendog's new shop. It is a record store. I love the theming. I love the build palette. It's giving me all sorts of inspiration, which is something I'm not actually short of right now. I know what we're going to be doing in our next episode. It's actually going to be what I might have once called a mega project, but it'll be something that I just continuously chip away at now. I am super keen to get started, but it might be a whiles away. It's going to take me a long time to put everything together, and I'm going to keep the mystery bubbling over until you see the next episode of Hermitcraft. Which brings us to the end of this one. So if you've enjoyed yourselves, be sure to leave a like on the video. Thank you as always, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Bye-bye.